Alright, this is more of an off-the-cuff video. I want to talk about an important topic, do like an intervention. It's finally time, fellas. It's finally time to talk about thumbnails and shmups, and shmup content. You know, for too long we have been sucking, and I'm not talking about everyone else. I'm talking about myself as well. I've done my fair share of sucking myself. As some of you may know, I do thumbnails for the Electric Underground's channel. He kind of specializes in shmups, but unfortunately, every time I gotta make a thumbnail for a new shmup release, I start fucking sweating. I'm like, oh god, not this again. What is it? How cursed is this gonna be? Among all the games he covers, you know, like beat 'em ups, character action games, fighting games, all that stuff, shmups are very uniquely hard to make thumbnails for, and that's mostly the fault of us, the developers. Basically, we're shooting ourselves in the foot, and I want to talk about why. But first, so you get a good idea what I'm talking about, I want to do like a bit of a thumbnail 101 type of tutorial thing. You'll see how they're constructed and get a clearer idea what I mean. Alright, so think about this as like an overview, right? What are thumbnails? Thumbnails are like little album covers. They're miniature representations of your video. And how do people view them, consume them, dare I say? They view them in a very small size, usually like on their phone or just while scrolling through like fucking on their laptop, not paying too much attention. And they're viewing them juxtaposed a lot of other thumbnails. So they're like surrounded by visual noise on all sides, and also they're not like the viewer's attention isn't focused on them. Because of this environment where thumbnails compete with all that visual noise, thumbnails have to be readable. They have to be very quickly and easily readable even at a glance when you're idly scrolling by. As a result, what you want to do usually when you're working on thumbnails is zoom out and squint and do kind of a low-res glance perception check, you know? That helps you understand if your thumbnail is readable or not. Because of the small size and the speed at which you scroll through them, there's very little real estate you have to work with. Like, you have to make them readable, and you have to squeeze in a lot of information. So it's kind of like the pixel art. You know, what pixel art is to painting, YouTube thumbnails are to something like record LPs, you know? When you have that big cover with a lot of details in a record store. You can't afford that in a YouTube thumbnail. You need it to be really quick, like really sharp, really clear, really punchy. Because clarity is such a huge priority, you need silhouettes for everything, not just text. Think of text as a big silhouette, right? It draws like a specific shape that your mind needs to quickly recognize. Characters are in the same boat. The characters need to be very readable and easy to process at a distance. So you have this whole emphasis on shapes, right? And you want to keep the shapes nice and separate and emphasize them. For example, with text, you need really nice outlines. You don't want too much overlap. So for example, the text shouldn't be on top of your character, because otherwise because it'll be unreadable. The text will be unreadable, or the character will be unreadable. You need them to be a little bit separate, but not too far apart, you know. Then you need stuff like faces, because that draws in the eye really easily. You need like clear poses, you know, ones that aren't hard to read at a glance. Just very simple visual elements that people pick up on even at a distance. If you have too much overlap, then things get hard to read, because the end of one thing and the beginning of another thing get kind of blended together. What you can do is you can add outlines, or you can do like soft brushing, you know, for example, adding a bit of black around a character, so when the next character pops in, there's a bit of a soft border between them. What you also want to avoid is something called tangents in art theory and like composition theory. It's when different lines or shapes cross in a way that makes their relationship really ambiguous, you know, from a glance. So yeah, the size of different objects in your composition is also very important. Think of them as just like think of it as like a priority system, you know. Bigger objects tend to be more important, and you know, if you have several objects together, that implies some kind of relationship. So you don't want, for example, text to be on one side of the screen and then the follow-up to that text to be on the completely opposite corner of the thumbnail. If you have stuff like fancy, like cloud backgrounds, space backgrounds, explosions, all that stuff, you know, sparks, treat it as kind of a special sauce, like a texture of your work, not the main ingredient. So you don't want it to compete for the viewer's attention. You want it to kind of subtly emphasize the different elements you already have. Okay, one final thing. This is more personal. I'm not sure how other people feel about it, but you know, it's my video, so I'm going to say it anyway. avoid standardization. You know, you may think, oh, it's really cute because you know all my thumbnails have my channel's name on them and they follow the same pattern. You know, that it seems cool, but the problem is like it makes all the fucking thumbnails blend together into one big pile. Where sometimes I'm not even noticing that a new channel uploaded the video because my brain immediately kind of like filtered it out. You know, there's not enough of a unique, distinct element to grab onto. You know, is it like, oh, I've watched this video. All right, game developers, it's your turn. Your press kits, if they exist, they usually don't even exist. But if they exist, they suck. Alright, let me tell you why. Screenshots are ass. They're fucking ass. They may, you know, your game might look amazing. Like, look at Devil Blade. Incredible looking game. What happens when you fucking zoom out? You know what happens? It looks like incomprehensible fucking gibberish. It's like a drip painting, you know? Fucking nonsense. In thumbnail form, the screenshots just do not work. It's not gonna work. You just stop. Alright, now let's talk about ships. Ships are cool, but the problem is they suck. They suck for thumbnails because the shape is so alien and hard to parse at a glance, you know, because it doesn't really resemble anything we see or use day to day, you know. It's not like a car. Like the shape is very hard to the shape is very alien essentially. No. What you want is characters. You don't have to plaster them all over your game. You don't even have to put them in the game. Just maybe like commission a piece of art that you use for promo and the press kit specifically. If you absolutely don't want characters in your game, you like the story doesn't allow for it or something, then at least do like the whole Neptunia thing where you turn the ship into an anime girl or some shit, right? And if you're one of those, if you're one of the like 58-year-old fucking ancient husk who's like, Shmup used to be really manly, but then the waifus ruined them, then just draw some fucking hot muscular beefcake just sitting in the cockpit and sweating, you know. So I need something to work with, something cool. Like you don't have to make it anime, you don't have to make it like you can do like an MGS thing, right? That's not anime, that's not weeby, that's like really cool and tasteful. When you're getting your character art, what you want is something simple, you know, like the character just standing there or just striking a simple pose. You don't want anything too fancy or too dynamic. For example, like let's say the character's doing like a jumping action pose where they're shooting their guns. That's cool and all. That's cool as like a single piece. But the problem is it's not modular. I can't. It's going to be hard to rotate the character. It's going to be hard to fit them on the, you know, on the thumbnail, and potentially it'll be hard to read the pose if I only see part of it. You want like waist up, simple poses, just like clear, like readable, clean, you know, that type of stuff. If you have stuff like backgrounds, if you have stuff like VFX, that's also really handy to have. Even like in-game assets, like let's say like an enemy sprite, that type of shit. Basically, think of it like this, right? The reviewer or the 1CCer or whatever, they're playing with Legos, right? And you want to give them as many pieces as possible so they can arrange it in a really interesting and creative way. So not everyone's thumbnail will look the same. There's like variety and there's like just a lot of ways to use every asset. Just think of it like that and I think you'll be fine.